Here's the thing that nobody tells new AI and SaaS founders. You don't really just launch adoption, you have to earn it through community. This means that you're answering Discord threads at midnight. You're answering GitHub issues where your response is faster than your competition, and in forum debates where you bring clarity instead of hype. Paid ads will get you attention, sure, but it's a short-term solution to a long-term problem, and you're going to constantly be having to spend on new ad sets. Press will get you a spike in organic attention, but doesn't really sustain long-term. But lasting adoption comes from communities that trust you, and trust isn't something that you can buy. What's up, everybody? My name is Morgan Von Drew, and I've spent the last 10 years running the full gambit from seed round startup all the way to international enterprise giants, where my campaigns have been responsible for upwards of $1.3 billion in marketing source revenue. So I know a thing or two about scaling startups. I am bringing all of those lessons from that corporate jungle to you on YouTube. So that way you don't have to go through all of those trials and tribulations, and you can just get right to the things that work. I've spent my career taking products from just a cool idea and transforming them into a market leader. And in every single case, community has been one of the primary force multipliers. Whether you're looking at building a dev tool, a customer app, or a B2B AI platform, online communities are where skepticism turns into curiosity, where curiosity turns into a trial, and a trial turns into customer advocacy. Today, I'm going to be giving you the high-stakes moves that CMOs that I have worked with have used to turn communities into adoption engines. We'll be walking through why communities are your fastest trust accelerator, how to pick the right ones for your audience, how to show up without being a walking billboard, leveraging open source and collaboration for reach, creating an advocacy flywheel through user-generated content, and last, tracking ROI so the board never questions how and where your time is being spent. Chapter 1, why communities matter for AI adoption. So AI has a credibility gap at this point. It's still early days, and people really don't know how they feel about it. They know that it is optimizing the hell out of everything and that everybody should be using it, but there's still that sort of machine versus man ideology and us versus them, or people worried about the dangers of AI. So you have to start building credibility and trust from it. Everyone has seen these overpromises or the vaporware and tools that barely work. So community helps you bridge that gap because they give you a few things. This is starting with third-party validation. So real users saying, I use this, it works, I like it. Let's be honest, here are things that aren't functioning with it very well, but here are the 27 things that offset that actually have changed my workflows. It also allows you to build faster trust cycles. So you're visible, you're responsive, and you're human. The best companies today are completely transparent. They're not hiding behind their lawyers or, stuffy corporate jargon. They're showing their founders upfront, talking about successes, especially talking about failures, and saying like, hey, we're building this company, we're human, we're with you, and we're doing the best that we can. Let's work on it together. What feedback can you give me to make this better for you? It also builds early feedback loops. So users are telling you in these forums or in these communities exactly what is wrong, which gives you time to fix it, which gives you time to go ahead and readjust your product roadmap so that way you can keep more of your users, which, plot twist, is more important than getting new ones. When Hugging Face first launched, they didn't just blow millions on ads. They poured into GitHub, into open forums, and into model sharing spaces. Developers didn't just adopt it, they evangelized. And today, they're the default home for machine learning models because the community trusts them more than the average press release. I can tell you that your marketing funnel isn't linear anymore. A community mention can replace weeks of a paid nurture. One comment from a respected member can convert faster than your entire email drip. And we saw this with the Clover campaign where we were posting 500 enterprise articles talking about enterprise AI strategy for insert company. And we ended up having one be picked up by the Chief Innovation and Strategy Officer of Pepsi, where all she did was say, hey, this is a really good deep dive on our strategy from Clover.ai, and she shared the link. We ended up seeing that one blog bring in 900 times more organic traffic than any of its counterparts, just because there was a mention from an actual leader in the industry. It's important to note that if you're invisible in your target communities, then you're also invisible where buyer decisions are first starting to come to fruition. Chapter 2 is about focusing on the right communities, not just every community. A spray and pray method is the fastest way to burn your time. You need to dominate selective space where your ICP already invests their attention. So map teams' presence accordingly. So platform communities would be like Hugging Face discussions, GitHub reports, LangChain Slack, and MLOps discords. Interest forums would be like r slash machine learning, r slash artificial, or niche subreddits. So do your own digging and your own research there. Professional nodes, so things like private LinkedIn groups, founder mastermind circles, and just raw networking go a long way. And then there's the hybrid ecosystem, so AI research newsletters mixed with VC-backed innovation networks. A company that I was following on LinkedIn did this really well. They were an AI healthcare startup, and they ended up joining 3 niche Slack groups for medtech engineers. They didn't really try to go post in 50 different spaces and spam the market with their content. Instead, they just became the go-to answer for HIPAA compliance issues in AI within those Slack channels. And by month 3, they were getting inbound requests from hospital systems without a single dollar spent on ads. Pro tip here is to find convergent points. So places where your communities, what you want to do is find convergent points. So communities where your ICP and your influencers both hang out. These are adoption accelerators because they confound influence with research. Map your top 3 communities and treat them like paid channels. Allocate your time, your resources, and create measurable KPIs on what success looks like in those spaces. Chapter 3 is a reminder to engage authentically and avoid self-promotion. You want to be useful and value-oriented. Communities can smell an opportunity instantly. If you join a group and instantly drop your link, you're going to be muted or blocked faster than you can say, check out my product. Here are some engagement rules that I give my teams. You want to answer before you announce. So earn your reputation as somebody who solves problems, not somebody that just shows their product. You want to lead with insight. So share data, frameworks, or hard-earned lessons that make the thread better. Be present off stage. So don't just post on your own and then log off. What you want to be doing is commenting on other people's posts. You see a tremendous amount of increased reach on something like LinkedIn when you spend 10 or 20 minutes posting on 15 other posts on your feed. You'll end up seeing, it's funny, I'll get something like 60 impressions on a post on a Tuesday, but then on Wednesday when I post something that is very similar, but I also spent time commenting on other people's posts, I'll see that skyrocket into the hundreds of impressions. It's always important to not just put yourself on a pedestal. You want to share others' wins. So credibility grows when you're seen as being an advocate for the community and not just yourself. If you're always just promoting yourself, people are just going to gloss over and just look at you like an ad. But if you're constantly celebrating your super users or your employees, or even a feature that one of your competitors came out with, like, hey, this is groundbreaking, innovative, good job moving the needle and pushing us to do better. A good example of this was I watched a founder pop up on comments sections, spending about 2 months answering Python and TensorFlow related questions before they ever mentioned that they actually owned an AI model optimization tool. They never tried to show their own product. What they did was they became an authority in that space and always looked to help others. When they finally did, it was just framed as something simple like, hey, here's something that might help you with that exact problem. And it just blew up their organic signups because people had already built trust around them and they weren't used to seeing that person ship or show their product. Commit to a give to ask ratio of 5-to-1. So what this means is that for every 5 genuine contributions, you're allowed 1 post that actually talks about your own product. To think long-term, communities are like relationship markets. The interest rate is trust, and you have to earn that over time. Chapter 4 is about open source communities and collaboration. So in AI, we see this especially with the Clover.ai open source community. It's a strategic moat. We've seen a tremendous amount of positive response to this. We sent out something like 105,000 emails. People are incredibly interested in joining new communities. This works for a few reasons. So for one, it builds visibility. Your code lives where the devs are actually looking for solutions and it's easily accessible to them. It also helps your company increase the speed of iteration because external contributors are helping you ship features that you couldn't prioritize internally. Next would be network credibility. So every pull request is a public vote for your relevance and something that you can go ahead and build with evangelists or start getting testimonials from these users. When Deepset released Haystack as an open source NLP, they didn't really hold it back at all. What they did was they invited devs into the roadmap. This resulted in their GitHub community pretty much exploding. Their Discord became the heartbeat of adoption, and they had enterprise leads that came through developer word of mouth, which is nearly unheard of, especially at that enterprise level. There's such long sales cycles. The takeaway here is that you don't want to open source your entire core IP. What you want to do is open source enough to make adoption frictionless and collaboration possible. In AI especially, collaboration is the currency of credibility, and if you're a closed door, you'll be seen as extractive and not additive. Chapter 5 is about building advocacy through user-generated content, because we need to be real. Your loudest advocates should be your users, because their voice carries further than yours ever will, because your prospects see themselves in your successful users. They're looking for more reasons to relate with the people that are actually succeeding on your platform, and not more ways to believe what your ads are telling them. This is how you engineer advocacy. You want to launch user challenges. So as an example, like who can build the best workflow with our API, or spotlight users in newsletters and social media feeds. Give public recognition for bug fixes, PRs, or community contributions, and then provide a frictionless way to share wins via templates, assets, and hashtags. As an example here, RunwayML didn't dominate creative AI tools by bragging. Their artist-built projects, posted them, and then those posts became their marketing. It was really simple. The more they showcased their community, the more the community showcased them. It was a virtuous cycle. What you want to do is give your users a stage before you give them swag. Recognition outlasts merch. You want to show them that they are the best users on your platform, highlight them, show them off to the rest of your market, because people are going to want to strive to be like them too. UGC, user-generated content, isn't luck, it's a process. It's something that you can ask for. When you make sharing so easy and rewarding, it becomes a reflex, then your community is going to grow exponentially. Chapter 6 is the importance of measuring your community-driven results. So I've learned this. If you can't measure it, then you can't scale it. This is true across the entire marketing organization. I mean, it's across the entire organization. It's not even just marketing specific. Just measure shit. If you're not measuring it, then you're effectively hiding things. What are you scared of? These are some things that you want to be tracking. So your activity, so how many posts, comments, and mentions are in these communities, which ones are growing faster. Traffic attribution, so use UTM tags on shared links. Your conversion quality, compare retention to lifetime value of community source users versus paid ad users. And then advocacy signals, so UGC volume, organic mentions, and sentiment analysis go a long way. One of the founders of my LinkedIn network had shared a post a few weeks ago talking about how users that they obtained from a Slack group retained 2.4 times longer and upgraded 3 times more often than their cold leads, or leads that they had gotten through their ads. They doubled the time spent in that community and cut underperforming channels, like their paid ads. This ended up netting a higher CAC to LTV ratio across the board, and they just got to spend less money to get customers that were actually more invested in being on their platform, because the trust had been built beforehand. What you want to do is report community ROI in the same format that you would your paid campaigns. So that's how you win resource allocation from leadership, saying, hey, for 20 hours of our time, which costs whatever the going rate is, we're actually able to unlock $200,000 worth of revenue, whereas with these paid ads, we had to put in $50,000 and to get the same result. You want to report community ROI in the same exact way that you report on your paid ad campaigns. It's how you can win more resource allocation from your leadership. If it ends up boiling down that spending 5 hours a week talking in Slack channels to your community is going to be more economically viable than dropping another $50,000 on ads, it's a no-brainer in where you should be spending your time. Community is a performance channel if you treat it like one. It should have budget, staffing, and goals. Here's the takeaway. AI adoption is about earning belief, and communities are the fastest way to earn that. You want to show up where people actually gather. You want to contribute before you promote. You want to open up enough to invite collaboration, but still have something else for them to look forward to. So don't, blow your whole load. And then you want to let your users tell your story. Last, measure so that way you can actually scale this like any other function. When you commit to this, adoption stops being a push and starts pulling you forward into the market. If any of this was helpful, please go ahead and give me a like, comment, and subscribe. As always, this is a new channel, so any support is incredibly helpful. Feel free to give me a connection on LinkedIn. Again, same name, Morgan Von Druitt. Happy to connect with anybody and talk through what your particular needs are, or visit dippity.digital/blog, and you will find hundreds of free resources giving you my step-by-step playbooks on how to build and scale marketing at a SaaS startup. As always, there will be a couple of videos here above my head. Not sure which ones will pop up, but I'm sure that you will love them regardless. Believe me, I made them. Neat. I will just do this thing. Have a good day.